Hello and welcome to the Nail in the Coffin Podcast. I'm your host, Grayson Ball. With me, as always, Scotty Beckstrom.
Lonzo Ball is a Laker. LeVar obviously called it.
He did call it, but what did you think about his little playoff prediction there, especially now the West Coast is getting a lot tougher?
This is coming from a Lakers fan. We're not going to make the playoffs next year.
They may be the 13th seed or the 14th seed, but they're not going to be the 8th seed. I can promise you that right here.
Even with Zeus's help, just like LeVar said, I don't think we're going to make the playoffs.
They might need Zeus and Poseidon on their side if they
seriously.
want to make the playoffs. Glad to join us today. We're excited to go. We got a whole lot of a good show today. Talking NBA free agency. This is the first day of NBA free agency today, Saturday. We are excited. We are going to be talking about all the NBA free agency deals and all the re-signings and trades that have been happening. We've had a crazy couple of days in the NBA. We are both excited about it. We're ready to go. Let's jump right into it. Scotty, give me your first overall impressions of the NBA free agency so far.
I could not believe Paul George went to the Thunder. Not necessarily saying it's a bad move, but I thought for sure the Celtics or the Cavs were gonna get him, because the Cavs obviously just need a little bit extra help to get past the Warriors. Well, maybe not a little bit, but they need some help. And even to the Lakers, I can't believe they've expressed that they're interested in Paul George. He's from California. I cannot believe he went to the Thunder. That took me by surprise.
Yeah, I mean, it we'd heard Boston and we'd heard Cleveland and we'd heard the Lakers, but we'd never heard the Oklahoma City Thunder even mentioned once. So that's why it was surprising for the most part. But, it was kind of crazy because of so little it took to get him,
Yeah.
And I just read a report yesterday that said that the Pacers were no way going to trade him to the Cavaliers, probably obviously for obvious reasons,
Yeah.
right? But it's crazy he went to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, here's my theory is that he's going to leave after 1 year to the Lakers, primarily because he wants to be a Laker, wants to play for the Lakers, but also because Russell Westbrook's just going to drive him away, just like he did Kevin Durant. And, we're again going to say, well, Russell Westbrook is this kind of player who doesn't like to play with other people. He's not a good teammate, I guess. And he's just going to drive him away, and he's just going to go to the Lakers. And, there's also talks now that Russell Westbrook might go to the Lakers as well. And, they've got a crowded point guard situation there, especially with Lonzo Ball and LeVar Ball, because that's kind of 2 point guards right there that you got to get through.
And for those that miss, we know Westbrook did ultimately win the MVP at the first ever NBA award show. However, I wouldn't say this was a total home run trade on the Thunder, because it's almost like they're renting him for a year.
Yeah.
It's like you get this player for a year because we know he can still leave right after. And just like Dre said, I don't think he's going to want to stay with Westbrook after he plays with him for a year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you said rent. They definitely are renting Paul George, I feel like. I mean, unless they make some sort of a run.
They signed a year lease, just like an apartment.
Yeah, and unless they make some sort of get into the second or third round. Like if they get to the Western Conference Finals, he might consider staying. If they get to the finals, he might stay. But ultimately, the thing is with the rental is they didn't have to give up that much for him. They gave up Andre Roberson and one other player, which to me, they got the Sabonis kid they gave up. I couldn't remember the guy's name, but they didn't give up that much. I mean, Andre Roberson and Sabonis were not Roberson.
It's Victor
Oladipo.
Yeah, it's Oladipo.
Victor Oladipo, who we've yet to see stardom from him. He could be a decent player. Sabonis is okay, but again, he's young. So, we'll see what it eventually ends up costing the Thunder, and we'll see if he leaves in free agency in next fall, spring.
If I had to give this trade a grade, Dre, I would probably give this a B+. Yep. Not quite an A because it's more of a renting. It is an addition. It's a great defensive addition. Yeah. But overall, it's a B+. What would you give it?
I mean, I like it. I mean, anytime you get probably a top at least 20 player, maybe top 15 player, maybe top 10 for Paul George. Anytime you can get a player like that caliber, I think you got to give it at least a B.
Yeah.
Now again, we'll see how it works. Again, I have to be a little hesitant because it didn't work with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. Although they did get to the finals 1 year, they didn't get to the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago. But again, look where they are now, and look where Kevin Durant is now after playing with Russell Westbrook for several years. So I'm going to give it a B. Go a little bit on the more conservative side. We'll see how it plays out, I guess, next fall. Moving on now, let's talk about a little bit of the CP3 to Houston. Let's get into that. That was kind of a shocker again. We didn't see a sign and trade deal like they were able to do. What do you think of the CP3 to the Houston Rockets?
And I was kind of in the boat as everyone else, because I thought he was going to the Spurs. I thought the Spurs were trying to gear up for the Warriors, and nope, he goes to the same state, but just goes to Houston. I think that's great, because now James Harden did do great last year in the point. But now James Harden can go back to the 2, and Chris Paul can run the point, and James Harden maybe can be even more effective because now it doesn't always have to go through him. He's got someone else who can kind of help facilitate and play a little bit of defense as well.
Now the downside to that is James Harden had a MVP caliber year.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought he should have won the MVP as the one. He'd played the 2 for his entire career essentially, and then he switched to the 1 last season with their new system, their new coach, and everything, and had an MVP type year. So we'll see if he goes back to the 2, how that's going to impact his game. Now the thing I don't know how much I like this trade, or I guess the signing, because it was a trade, but essentially Chris Paul said I want out. I don't know how much I like it because both James Harden and Chris Paul are both dribble, shoot, maybe or pass. So they're both that type of player, and it's kind of the same thing that I said last year, and I was completely wrong when I said this last year that Kevin Durant of the Warriors isn't going to work. We saw how that turned out, right? But I don't know. This has me that same sort of feeling, and maybe it'll work out. Maybe it'll be great. Maybe they can figure out how to play with each other. But it has me at least intrigued, if not a little worried, for the Houston Rockets because I just think they're both ball dominant players, like to dribble until something happen.
That's true. My question though is, does adding Chris Paul to Houston and maybe Paul George to Oklahoma City, does that give either the Thunder or the Rockets, does that get them past the Spurs or the Warriors? I don't think the Warriors, but the Spurs. Does that give either of those clubs past the Spurs?
Well, we'll see with the Spurs. They might have an off year and they might decide to move LaMarcus Aldridge.
Yeah.
They're going to be without Tony Parker. I think they're going to move on from him. He might be the backup now. Patty Mills, I think, is going to be the starter from moving forward. We'll see how Jonathan Simmons develops. Pau Gasol's got another year under those legs. We'll see how they maybe it's possible. If Houston adds maybe another piece, maybe like an Otto Porter Jr. or something like that in free agency, we'll see. As far as the Thunder, I don't see them getting past the Spurs, let alone the Warriors. They might get like a 5th seed, maybe, depending on what happens in Utah with Gordon Hayward. They might, be right on the 4, 5, 6 range, kind of where they were last year. But no, I don't think either of them get past the Spurs as they are constructed now. We'll see what happens if the Spurs maybe don't have an off year. Maybe they decide to move some pieces for some future picks or something.
And that's what's crazy to me. You have the MVP in Westbrook, whether we think he deserves it or not, and you add a great defensive player, another all-star. And what does that essentially do for the playoff talk? It moves you up from a 6 seed last year to maybe a 5 seed.
Yeah.
And that's how good the West is. You add Paul George, and all it does is move you from a 6 seed to a 5 seed. And that is crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, the West is just stacked. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. LeBron is walking to the NBA Finals next year.
Oh yeah.
Even if Gordon Hayward goes to the Celtics, which I don't think he will do, they're still going to walk. I don't think Gordon Hayward to the Celtics gets you past LeBron, especially in the weak Eastern Conference. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think it's very intriguing. The West is going to be extremely tough. It's going to be very, very interesting. It's going to be very crowded at the top. Let's move on now to the Jimmy Butler to the Minnesota. Speaking of the West and the dynamic stars that they've got traded or signed to the West, let's move on to the Jimmy Butler to the Minnesota trade.
And they also got Teague as well, and that's a huge addition.
They did sign Teague as well, so they're stacked, and they got kind of a big four there. Although Jeff Teague probably isn't in that big four type range, but he's a decent player.
I think that was a great deal for the T-Wolves. Great deal. I think they're definitely going to make the playoffs next year, and they got a good little bit of a young core with Karl Anthony Towns there, and I think this is great. I think this gets them a playoff spot. I wouldn't say necessarily a win.
I'd say a 7 or 8.
Yeah,
maybe a 6 if they play.
6 if it's a really good
they meld
year.
really well.
But this was an awesome deal on the end of the Wolves. I mean, who did the Wolves even give up?
They gave Chris Dunn and Zach LaVine and I think 2 picks.
But for Butler, I mean that was a steal.
That's a good haul. That's a really good haul.
And once again, you move another All-Star from the East over to the West. So it's like, how are we even going to do the All-Star team for the West this next season? How is that even going to work?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. I mean, people who should be all-stars in the West aren't going to be all-stars in the West, like a Gordon Hayward if he stays, or maybe like a Blake Griffin perhaps, because he's been an all-star the past couple of years. Speaking of Blake Griffin, he re-signed with the Clippers. What do you think of that deal?
I think it's good for it's good for the Clippers, but the thing about Blake Griffin is he's injury prone. He was kind of their franchise player, and I'm sure most Clippers fans have the Griffin jersey, so it was good for the Clippers to re-sign. I wouldn't really say he would even be if he went somewhere else, I don't know if he would be a huge asset. Like, I know there was a little bit of rumors of him going to Boston and whatnot, and I don't think he would be huge for Boston. So I think it was the right move for Blake Griffin to re-sign with the Clippers. It just makes sense in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I want to see a full season of Blake Griffin healthy because he's missed like 83 games over the past 3 seasons, and he just he missed a big portion of the playoffs against the Jazz last season. I think he could be a good player. I just don't know if he's as good as we've made him out to be. He can't shoot really. He can hit a three every once in a while, and I don't know how he can stay healthy for an entire season. I'm interested to see it and see how they can work out now with the Clippers. Where they've got a few extra pieces that they've signed, and we'll see what they do in free agency. But overall, I don't know. I don't know if I love the deal. I give it a C+ for that one.
Yeah, I agree with that. One question for you, Dre's, is the Celtics, Beantown. So they're sitting here and they're getting clobbered by the Cavs, by LeBron. They know they need to make a move. And Paul George has been in the mix. Hayward's been in the mix. Blake Griffin's been in the mix. And nothing's happened. What are the Celtics doing?
I don't know. I think
they need something.
They definitely need something.
They got Tatum in the draft. That was a good pick.
But he's a rookie.
Yeah.
I mean, when is the last time you've ever seen a rookie come into the NBA
and have a huge
and change the dynamic to where they could be like the LeBron James Cavaliers? Here's my thing, and we'll get back to this a little bit later in our final segment, which we know is coming at the end of the show. I think it has to do with the general manager. We saw all kinds of rumors that Paul George was going to be traded to the Celtics, or at least they were trying to get him. We heard a bunch of rumors about what the Celtics were willing to offer, and it had to do with next year's number 1 Nets pick and a few other picks and a starting player like Jaylen Brown or Crowder. But now that you hear all those rumors and you see what the Pacers actually got for Paul George, you kind of have to wonder if any of those were true. Like if I were the Celtics and I would have offered next year's number 1 Nets pick, Jaylen Brown and Jay Crowder, wouldn't you do that deal? I mean, you did this probably a worse deal with Oklahoma City. So I just don't think the Celtics offered what they thought that they should have, or I don't think the Pacers thought that they were getting offered what they should be offered for Paul George. So I don't know. I really think it's just bad GM, and we'll get to that a little bit later. That's just how I feel about it. It's bad management.
You've been telling me a little bit that Hayward is staying with the Jazz, and I think Hayward's going to the Celtics. But why do you think he's staying with the Jazz?
Well, a few things. I mean, Adrian Wojnarowski yesterday on ESPN said that the Jazz feel confident that they're going to sign Hayward, which is a good sign. If they were worried, I wouldn't maybe feel as I do right now. But here's why. Chris Paul, as an example, after the season ended, didn't really have much communication with the Celtics, wasn't working out with any of the Celtics trainers, wasn't doing much around the Celtics, and he wound up in Houston. Gordon Hayward, on the other hand, after the season ended, was in communication with the Jazz the whole time, has been working out with Jazz trainers the whole time.
And he wants Hill to re-sign.
He wants Hill to re-sign. That's probably going to be unlikely now that they got Ricky Rubio. But we can get into that a little bit later if we want to with the Ricky Rubio deal. And Adrian Wojnarowski is the guy for NBA rumors, NBA free agency, that type of stuff. And I think he would know more than anyone if the Jazz feel confident and if they think they have the best chance to re-sign him. I see that Gordon's going to see, look, everyone is fleeing from LeBron. There's probably a reason for that because they're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get through LeBron in the East.
Well, you can look at the same thing in the West, though, because you got the Warriors and the Spurs and now the Rockets.
Right.
So it's kind of the same thing.
Right. But I think the West is because it's tough. I think that makes it tougher for the Warriors. I don't think that they're definitely a lock for next year. I mean, what if Game 1 Steph breaks his ankle? And he's done for the season. That changes the entire dynamic. I mean, they're one major injury from being the 1 seed and maybe the greatest team ever. They're one major injury from being a 4 seed or a 5 seed or a 6 seed, just because the West is that good. And again, you never hope anyone gets injured. I hope Steph doesn't break his ankle because he's a great player for this league, and I like to watch him play. But those types of things do happen, and the West Coast, where it's so good now, anyone could easily surpass the number 1, get the number 1 seed, and then at least get to face LeBron in the finals, where it's a coin flip at that point. So I think he stays in the West. I think he stays with the Jazz. I think he'd be dumb to go to the Celtics.
Here's my thing on that. You say the Warriors now have a tougher schedule, and it's true now with all these All-Stars moving to the West. But it would be the same thing for the Jazz if Hayward stays. He's still got to play all those guys too in the West, and I think Hayward's looking at it. Of course, there's money. Money is a huge indicator.
And he can make more money with the Jazz.
Yeah, he can make more money with the Jazz. But if he's looking at a competitive example or perspective, he can say, well, I can go to Boston and I can at least get to the conference finals every year against the Cavs and LeBron, or I can play roulette and maybe not even win my first round in the West because the West is so stacked. That's your options here.
Yeah, I mean,
he might not even win a playoff series in the West, but he could pretty much automatically go to the conference finals with the Celtics, considering they were the number 1 seed last year without him and got there. Adding a Gordon Hayward would get you to the conference finals, ultimately losing to the Cavs. So he's thinking I can either automatically go to the conference finals, which I've never done in my career, or I can maybe possibly not even win my first round game in the West.
Yeah,
and that's how I look at it.
Maybe he sees it like that. The Jazz are a deep team, though. They do have, if they're healthy. Now, Derek Favors has had some injuries. Alec Burks has had some injuries. Rodney Hood has had some injuries. Who knows what we'll get from Dante Exum? I've heard that he's been impressing some of the Jazz guys. Joel Bolenboy, Donovan Mitchell. Who knows whether those guys can contribute next season and whether they can stay healthy. But if they are a deeper team, that will aid them in a tougher Western Conference schedule. I'm intrigued to see how it works out. He's supposed to hopefully announce it next Tuesday or Wednesday, so we're only maybe 3 or 4 or 5 days away at the most from hearing a decision from Gordon Hayward. If I had to bet, I would say he would stay with the Jazz. I wouldn't bet a lot of money, but I would bet that he stays with the Jazz.
And one last thing in this segment, well, a couple last things is I feel, kind of mentioned it a little earlier as we've been talking in this segment, but I almost feel as if the West is making all these deals just to get second place. I almost feel like second place is the goal because I still don't think Houston can really compete with the Warriors adding Chris Paul. I still think the Warriors beat them in a series. And it's almost like they're all gearing up. They're all trading away these picks and these players just to get second place.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said earlier, it has to come down to, you got to still play 82 games.
Yeah.
You still got to play and the Warriors, like I said, are one injury away from maybe being irrelevant. Not irrelevant. They'll probably still be pretty good depending on who the injury is. But it's very interesting because Steph just signed a $201 million contract.
Max deal.
The very max deal. So the salary cap is $99 million, $99 million and some change next year. He's on the hook now for about $40 million. Kevin Durant, who knows? He could get a super max deal, or he could take less money. Who knows? But if he gets close to what he got last year, we'll say $25 million because he got 26 last year. If he takes a little bit of a pay cut, that's $25 million from Kevin Durant. So we're up to $65 million from Steph and Durant, just those two alone. Draymond and Klay Thompson are on the hook for $25 million for both of those two. So right there, we're up to 80 or 90 million. We're up to, $10 million in cap room. They just signed Sean Livingston as well. So you're out of cap room with 5 guys. You're done. You're out of cap room with those 5 guys, depending on what Kevin Durant does. Again, that number could fluctuate. And it might not matter with them who they have on their bench because they're so good at the starting positions. But they're not going to have a bench next year because they just don't have any money to pay people. So we'll see how that turns out. But let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. What you think of this crazy NBA free agency that we've already had. Again, today's the first day of NBA free agency. I expect to hear a lot more deals in the next coming days and even weeks maybe. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Let us think who you think should be the favorite next year or the dark horse to be the most improved team next year. And we'd love to hear your comments and your reactions.
And finally, Phil Jackson got fired. That's a big thing, too.
Thank goodness.
Thank heavens. Finally, the Knicks can move forward.
And I can't believe they didn't. I'm so glad they didn't trade Kristaps Porzingis because that would have been the bonehead move of the century.
All right. Now we wanted to talk a little bit about MLB or baseball. For those that don't know, Dre and I are actually both big baseball fans, too. This is our first segment on the show talking about baseball just because there's been a lot of NBA and a lot of other stuff. But we are pretty big baseball fans. So Dre, what's been your impression so far in the season?
First of all, I love baseball. I can't believe we're almost halfway through the baseball season.
All-Star
It seems like All-Star games in about 2 weeks or a week and a half. Can't believe we're already this far into it, but a lot of big surprises. A lot of really dynamic young players, rookies especially. I'm intrigued so far, and I can't wait to see how the rest of the season turns out.
Yeah, one big thing for me is the Astros.
Yeah.
I mean, they got the best record in the MLB. What's up with that?
I mean, I've got a cool little nugget. I don't know if you'll remember this or if the audience will remember this. I believe they were on the cover of a Sports Illustrated magazine. I want to say in 2014 or maybe 2013. It's been 3 or 4 years ago at least. And the cover of Sports Illustrated had like a picture of the Astros or something like that, and the caption read, "Congratulations to the 2017 World Series champions, Houston Astros." And I was like, and at that point they were like the worst team, one of the worst teams in the bigs. And so I was like, this is nuts. But we've seen it this year. They're like the best team in the league. So I think it's a solid prediction that they could end up in the World Series and maybe even win it. Yeah. So that's been one of my most intriguing stories of the year.
What's been up with the Cubs? I mean, they're like battling with 500, and they were so good last year.
Yeah,
this year they're.
I think it's just a World Series hangover, I mean, when you live in a town or a city that hasn't won a World Series or
the drought,
in 108 years, I just think they got so high up on themselves. Not that they shouldn't have. I mean, congratulations on winning the World Series. Like, that was a huge feat, and America celebrated just as much as Chicago did for them. But I think they're just on a little World Series hangover. They lost Dexter Fowler. That plays some sort of a minor role, I imagine, but. I think they're just a little bit hungover from the World Series win, and we'll see if they can turn it around and finish the season off with a bang and maybe get a playoff spot or maybe win the division or whatever. But we'll see. Yeah,
one crazy thing about this season so far in the MLB has been the rookies. I mean, you got Judge over in New York, and then you got Bellinger over in Los Angeles, and I've watched a lot. I'm a big Dodgers fan, and Dre's a big Braves fan, so I've watched a lot of Dodger games, and his first game was April 25th, so he hasn't even played the full season, and he's leading the National League in home runs.
Right.
He's got 24 home runs so far. He hasn't even played the whole season. He's played a partial season, and he is leading the National League in home runs. That is insane. And to go along with the trends for Dodgers of Rookies of the Year, it's going to be 3 in a row now. Yeah. Jock Peterson, Corey Seager, and then this year, Bellinger's going to win. That's 3 in a row for the Dodgers.
Yeah, I hope he does the home run derby, because that will make it really interesting. Him and Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I mean, we've had some crazy rookies.
And Judge too in New York.
Judge has been incredible. He's put New York back on the map after 3 or 4 seasons of mediocre baseball, at least since Derek Jeter left. It's been incredible to watch. I don't know if you heard this yesterday. They set a new record for most home runs in a month.
Oh, for the MLB. That's right.
For MLB. For like 1,070 home runs in a month, which is the most in like
and that's fun to watch. That's
month.
Fun for baseball.
I think that's great for baseball. A lot of like the older guys are thinking that it's not good, but we
PEDs or something.
We could maybe have a good segment on what I feel like the MLB needs to improve in order to appeal to younger fans. That would be a really good segment. Maybe we'll do that one day. But I think it's great for the fans to be able to go to a game and be able to see 2, 3, 4, 5 home runs. That just makes your enjoyment of the game a little bit better.
Yeah, and it's just been awesome with these rookies, with these up and comers. I mean, you kind of had Mike Trout and Bryce Harper were the big rookie sensations, and now they're two of arguably the best players in the MLB, and now they're kind of getting replaced. These rookies are now coming up with Bellinger and Judge are kind of the new good rookies.
Yeah,
it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome. I think I think they're good for the league. They're exciting for the league, and hopefully they can keep raking like they are right now. It's going to be a really interesting rest of the season, because we expected the Dodgers to be good. We expected the Cubs to be good, although they're not going to be that good. We expected the Nationals to be good, but the surprise teams are, like I said, the Yankees, who were supposed to be decent, I guess. The Arizona Diamondbacks and the Colorado Rockies, who right now those two teams are raking. I think the Diamondbacks have 50 wins this year, which is a good mark at this point in the season. So those have been two amazing surprises, and I'm intrigued to see how it turns out.
Yeah, the Rockies finally got some pitching down, because for years and years they had no pitching, and now they just got a bunch of good, solid guys that can hit, and they got some decent pitchers, and look what it is. The Dodgers and the Rockies have been battling all season, going back and forth. So it's good for the Rockies, because they haven't had a lot of success recently. So it's good that they're finally getting there. Trey, from right now on July 1st, who'd be your World Series prediction?
Well, I'm going to go with Sports Illustrated. I'm going to say the Houston Astros. I think they're probably the best team right now. You know how I feel about the Dodgers. I dislike the Dodgers with a passion. ever since Juan Uribe put a dagger in my heart three or four seasons ago. They're gonna choke again. That's my prediction. I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna make a prediction that the Dodgers are gonna choke again in the playoffs.
Who comes out of the NL then to lose?
Probably the Nationals.
The Nationals, huh?
They have to. In order for the Nationals to do that, though, they have to get a good bullpen. Their bullpen is absolutely terrible. If you can't get Scherzer or Strasburg or one of the other aces to the 8th inning every game, you're not going to win because they don't have a bullpen. And I'm sure they'll make some moves towards the trade deadline to get a decent bullpen. I think the Nationals probably will come out of the NL. Maybe the Diamondbacks if they make a run. I don't think the Rockies will just because of where they play. I think their string of luck will probably run out. And I think the Astros will come out of the NL or the AL, excuse me.
Well, unlike you, I got the Dodgers over the Astros in the World Series because there's Clayton Kershaw, who's been the best pitcher in baseball for the last number of years, and Greinke was there, but then he went over to the Diamondbacks. But with this new guy Wood, who came over from your Braves,
don't remind me,
who's undefeated this season. It's finally we got these two.
Do you know what the Braves gave up for Alex Wood in that trade? What? A Snickers bar. Come on, that's what they gave up was a Snickers bar. And Alex Wood now is one of the best pitchers in the National League, and the Braves traded him when he was a young dynamic pitcher for a Snickers bar.
I hope it was good. I hope it satisfied whoever got it.
I don't know, seriously.
So, man, Snickers need to sponsor us with that shout out. What was up with that?
I'm still upset about that trade. And I hate you too, Brooks Conrad.
Hey, save it for Cremated. But the Dodgers finally got these stud pitchers and this core of good hitters, also with Justin Turner and his good guys. And I think the Dodgers are finally, after years and years of making the playoffs and losing instantly, are going to get this series. But we'll have to wait and find out. Not till the Fall Classic.
We'll see. Like I said, I predict the Dodgers are gonna choke again in the National League playoffs, but we'll see how it turns out. Let us know in the comments what you guys think. We're interested to see what you guys think about our MLB segment. We don't talk a lot about this, but just because we had such a good NBA season storyline. So let us know in the comments who you think will win the World Series. If you agree with Scotty, if you agree with me, or if you think some other team will win the World Series. Who's your dark horse and who you think will come out on top?
If you think we're dumb, that's fine. Just let us know what you think. We're happy to read it and happy to respond.
So many of you have probably heard, I'm sure you've probably heard if you follow the sports world at all, that Conor McGregor and Floyd Money Mayweather are going to face off in a bout here in the next couple of months. And it's one of the most interesting things that we've probably seen in the last couple of months outside of the world of, the traditional baseball, basketball, football, sports. We're definitely excited about this fight. We kind of got a few thoughts that we want to share with you. So, Scotty, why don't you kick it off and see what you got with the fight?
Yeah, so the fight's August 26th in Las Vegas. And this really just started with trash talk months ago with Money Mayweather, with McGregor, Conor McGregor, just saying how just talking trash because he was winning the MMA and he was kicking butt in the UFC and then what do you know, we have a fight between two juggernauts in their respective sports. For one, I can't believe McGregor is doing this because he's an MMA guy and I know he grew up with boxing. He grew up boxing a little bit, but he's primarily MMA, and Mayweather's just boxing. So he's stepping into Mayweather's domain and trying to. I can't believe it. I'm looking forward to it. I think it will be great. Maybe mostly because it's heated and they both want to kick each other's butt. But looking at some stats a little bit, they're both gonna fight. They announced they're gonna fight at 152 pounds, so they're both gonna be at that. McGregor is 5'9", and he's got a 74-inch reach, where Mayweather is 5'8" and has got a 72-inch reach. So that's just some of the physical stats. One big thing for me though, Dre, is Conor McGregor is 28 years old, so he's prime. He's prime age. Mayweather is 40.
Yeah.
So, and I know Mayweather is one of the greatest of all time, boxing, considering he's undefeated.
Right.
But he's 40 years old, and that's old for any sport, even baseball, which you can play forever. 40's getting, that's old.
Yeah. When I first heard the rumors, I never thought it would happen just because
I didn't either.
It doesn't make sense for Floyd to do it. I don't feel like it's kind of a lose-lose situation for Floyd, just because if he wins, it's like
it's like you beat an MMA
you
guy.
beat an MMA guy.
Sick.
Congratulations. If he loses, it's like you lost to an MMA guy. Like, so I don't think there's any sort of win scenario for Floyd Mayweather, and same thing for McGregor. If he loses, it's like, well, he lost to a boxer in his own sport.
Yeah,
big deal.
Big deal, and you still get a huge paycheck.
Yeah, and if he wins, he's like, well, you beat a boxer in his own sport.
Yeah, you're the best fighter in the world.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of a weird fight,
It is
and
weird.
it kind of reminds me of the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight that we had like a year ago or something like that. I think it's going to get really, really hyped up. I think it's going to be like the biggest event of the summer. There's going to be a lot of money changing hands. There's going to be a lot of pay-per-view viewers, and then I think it's going to be a lot of just little jab here, avoid here,
just
jab there.
Boom, step back.
I think it's going to be. I mean, who knows? Maybe McGregor will just try to be super aggressive, and Floyd will just probably. I think that's probably what's going to happen. Is Floyd is probably going to be just playing defense all night, because McGregor's going to be so amped up and so used to like that aggression that you use in MMA, and he's just going to come out swinging in a just a crazily aggressive, non like traditional boxing manner. And I think Floyd's just going to be on the defense all night, and who knows, maybe he'll land a couple of good punches to win in a full match or whatever. But I'm interested to see it.
And for those that don't know, the boxing score system is very complicated. It's very tactical. It's about where you land your punches, when you land your punches. It's very tactical. And in MMA, you're not used to that, because you're used to just taking the guy down.
And
where Mayweather is going to be a lot
yeah.
more tactical on where he needs to land the punches, when he does, when he should defend. So in the terms of the score system of the boxing, I don't know what McGregor is going to do.
Yeah.
So it's a weird. I have a comparison a little bit of kind of how I look at this. Like we've said, it's going to be a lot of money, but it's kind of a lose-lose for Mayweather, a win-win for McGregor. But anyway, I kind of look at this, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm crazy, but I've been thinking about this. I kind of look, so Mayweather's 40, he's retirement age, so we'll kind of put this into another sport, and he's one of the greatest of all time in his sports. So I look at this as kind of Kobe Bryant, who just retired. He's retirement age, one of the greatest of all time in his sport. He's retired, retirement age, versus Odell Beckham Jr., in a one-on-one game basketball. So you got Odell Beckham Jr., Conor McGregor,
okay, I like that.
Who's one of the best in his respective sports in their prime, young. And just as McGregor grew up boxing, Odell Beckham Jr. played basketball in high school.
Right.
So it's not like he's never picked up a ball.
And he's a good athlete.
And he's a great athlete. So this is like Odell Beckham Jr. calling up Kobe Bryant, talking trash to him to the media, and saying, let's play one-on-one to 21. But Dre, if you have a one-on-one game with Odell Beckham Jr. and Kobe Bryant, one-on-one game of basketball right now, right here, who do you pick in that?
I think with most of America, I would pick Kobe Bryant.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
That's just like Mayweather for me.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good comparison. I mean, who knows how accurate that'll be? I guess we'll see. Come the end of August. But that is a very interesting comparison. I hadn't thought about it like that. And I think even let's go a step further. Let's not say Kobe Bryant. Let's say Michael Jordan. That might be a little bit more far off of the comparison, but Jordan's even older than Kobe Bryant. Therefore, he's past his prime even farther. So, would you take Michael Jordan over Odell Beckham?
Easy. And I know Odell Beckham is in his prime of his life, and he's an amazing athlete. But it's like, man, you're playing basketball, and just like McGregor and Mayweather, you're boxing. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I agree. That comparison does kind of give me a little bit more of security of picking Mayweather in this fight. That is a really good comparison. I agree with you. I think it will be Floyd Mayweather. I think it'll be, like I said, it'll be really anticlimactic, really kind of Mayweather Pacquiao, and really just kind of a letdown to the public. And well, I guess we'll see come August.
I mean, am I excited for this? Yes. Am I going to watch it? Yes. Is it a complete money grab, possible media stunt?
Yeah.
Yes. But at the end of the day, I think Mayweather's gonna wipe the floor with McGregor.
Right. Let us know in the comments what you guys think, who you think will win the fight, whether it be Floyd Money Mayweather or Conor McGregor. Let us know if you think it's going to be by TKO or by whatever. Let us know what you think in the comments who's going to win, and let us know if you think we have a good opinion or if our comparison about Kobe Bryant and Odell Beckham Jr. is accurate or not.
Or even if you want to box one of us, let us know. We'll see if we can get it on pay-per-view.
I bet we could do that. Pay-per-view. We'll stream it live to YouTube if you comment down below. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's that segment that you've all been waiting for, our Get Cremated segment. This has been one of our favorite segments to do. Scotty, I know you're amped up about it, and I'm super amped up about it. Let's let you go first. Who are you going to cremate this week?
All right, now I do this one with a little bit of respect because he's an amazing player, tremendous talent, 60th pick in the NBA draft, fought his whole life, undersized. But Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas, you came out I don't know if it was a week or a couple of days ago, with a comment saying something along the lines of, if I were 6'3 or 6'4 or 6'5, whatever the exact height was, I would be the best player in the world, no questions asked. A comment along the lines of that. And like I said, you are amazing. You're one of the best in the NBA. You have fought your whole life. Tremendous respect. You've been the undersized guy. A lot of respect there. But man, what are you doing going around saying, well, if I was 6'3, if I was 6'5, I'd be the best? No, you wouldn't. Even if you were 6'5, you wouldn't be the best player in the world. Durant and LeBron would still be better than you. And I can sit here and say, well, if I personally was a 6'8", 260-pound guy, I could be an NFL lineman, don't you think, Dre? If I was 6'4", man, I would have started in college ball or something like that. Everyone in the world can say, if I was this, if I were that, if. Isaiah Thomas, just keep letting your game do talking, man. You don't need to make excuses because you're short. And you still wouldn't even be the best player in the world. You were the number 1 seed this year. You had a great season. Why are you going around complaining, saying if I were 6'4", if I were 6'5", man, I'd be the best in the world? Isaiah Thomas, come on, man. Get cremated, bro. Come on.
Man, if I was LeBron James, I'd probably be the best player in the world.
What are you doing?
If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas.
Literally.
That's actually interesting. I didn't actually hear that comment.
Yeah.
I don't know how I missed that.
Why are you an all-star going around saying, well, if I was a little bit taller, I'd be the best in the world, but I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, you don't ever make excuses for what you are not.
Even when you were the number 1 seed, I don't get it, Dre.
I don't get it either. We'll see. We'll get the last laugh when he's out of the league by 32. So,
yeah, seriously.
Ben, I'm kind of surprised you went with the Boston Celtics because I'm gonna go to the Boston Celtics. I'm gonna go with the general manager, Danny Ainge.
Oh, Danny Ainge.
I'm so fed up with Danny Ainge right now, bro. Here's my thing with Danny Ainge. You have like 85 draft picks over the next 3 years. Like I think he's got 87 draft picks. Like give up a couple for Paul George. Like this is Paul George. Like one of the best, probably top 15 players at least in the league. This, at the current time. Give up something for Paul George. Like, come on now. What are you going to do with 18 draft picks in the first round for the next 2 years? You already got, like, your starting 3 or 4 probably figured out. You drafted Jason Tatum, who's going to be, one of your guys for the next couple years. You don't need 18 draft picks. Like, give up a couple in Jaylen Brown maybe for Paul George. Paul George. Like, they could have had Jimmy Butler. They could have had Kristaps Porzingis. Like, I don't know what to say about Danny Ainge. I think he's scared to make a move, and it's easy for me to say because I sit on my couch and I bark at the TV during the games. I get it. Who are we to question what these guys are saying? And it's easy to say if I were general manager, I would do this, I would do that, I would do whatever.
If I were 6'5", if I were
the general manager, right? But I'm just saying, Danny Ainge, you could have put together a package for Paul George or Jimmy Butler or even Kristaps Porzingis. And I don't think you have the guts to do it. Put together a couple of picks. Put together Jaylen Brown, Crowder maybe. Send him over to New York or to Indiana and get a good player back in return. If you don't take risks or don't take chances, you're never going to beat LeBron. If you had to give up 2 draft picks and you had 4 next year, I don't think that's going to be a huge damper on your future. I think you have to sell win now to your fans, and I think you have to try to do your best to do whatever you can to get past LeBron James to get to the NBA Finals. As it is right now, you're not. Even if you get Gordon Hayward, you're not going to get past LeBron James. Nope. You got to make some moves, especially if Kristaps Porzingis or Jimmy Butler or Paul George were available. You got to do something, Danny Ainge. Come on now. Get cremated. So Danny Ainge, Isaiah Thomas, get cremated. Okay, guys, that'll do it for our show today. We do hope you enjoy it. Let us know in the comments down below what you think of the entire show. We got a new little setup here. We got 2 mics now working. We got a new little setup. We're feeling good. We're feeling great about this in this little podcast. Comment down below. Make sure you like and subscribe to the video. Share it with your friends. And Scotty, what's your last little bit of insight for us this week?
All I gotta say is, don't ever forget that Ron Artest has won an NBA championship. Meta World Peace has won an NBA championship. Don't you ever forget that. And we'll see you next time.
So is your boy Zaza. Thanks for watching. It's been the Nail in the Coffin Podcast.